Shabbat Shalom, everyone. My name's Daniel, and I'm the Vegan Nazarite. Well, folks, another Sabbath day and another teaching. So, today, what I want to do is continue with the four commands in Acts uh, chapter 15. So, just a little recap from last week's teaching. Last week, I elaborated on the four commands in Acts 15. So we read in Acts chapter 15 that James recommends four commands for new followers of Yeshua to start. And a lot of people misinterpret that passage to say that's basically all we need to do. Well, if we read the whole speech that James is actually saying, we find that he's actually recommending those four commands to start. And then he ends his statement by saying, Moses of all times is preached in a synagogue every Sabbath day. So, what is James actually telling us? Well, my suggestion is that he's actually telling us to start with those four commands, one from idolatry, one from fornication or adultery, we could say, and also two more commands to abstain from the blood, either to eat animals strangulated with the blood in them or to eat the blood itself. So let's elaborate on that. And today I'm going to start with the first command, which is idolatry. So let's keep sharpening our proverbial spears and sword, which is the word of God. So I'll take you back to Acts 15, 19 to 21. Wherefore my sentence is that we trouble not them which from among the Gentiles are turned to God, but that we write unto them that they abstain from pollutions of idols, from fornication, and from things strangled, from blood. For Moses of all time hath in every city them that preach him, being read in the synagogues every Sabbath day. So why does James actually add that statement? Well, my take is he's being a little ironic. He's saying, well, we don't need to teach them all the Torah in one day. For hundreds and even thousands of years, the Torah has been read in the synagogues every Sabbath day. So he's basically asserting with the council in Acts 15 that the new followers of Yeshua start on these four highly regarded commands. And I went into a little bit about this last week. And then that they keep going to the synagogue every Sabbath day to read Moses of all times. Well, Moses of all time sounds like who are the four or five first books of the Bible written by, or we could say attributed to. They're attributed to Moses himself. So James is actually telling the early followers of Yeshua, or the Gentiles that fell in love with God and Yeshua, to go to the synagogue every Sabbath day and keep learning the law and the prophets. So today, let's expand on the four commands from the Torah that James urges new believers to start honoring. when a new follower of Yeshua begins his or her path following the Messiah. So this lesson is a continuation of last week's lesson published. Many say that what they do is they follow the council decision in Acts 15. But do they really? If we lose sight of the foundation, and what's the foundation or the rock? It's the Torah. As many believers do by not researching the Torah, we can lose our way. And that's the path that Yeshua says leads to destruction when we leave the path of the Torah. So we learned last week that these commands are the start. And that James states that the Torah, or Moses of all time, as he puts it, is read in the synagogues every Sabbath day, in every city. And honestly, folks, that's still going on today. There are synagogues and Torah readings in almost every city, most of the cities on earth. Maybe not so much in some of the far Asian countries, but certainly wherever there was a remnant of Israel or Judah, there is a reading of the law and the prophets. Even here in my hometown of Ottawa, Ontario, there are synagogues here, and if there is no synagogue to read the law of Moses, well, guess what, folks? I spent all of last year reading every Torah reading directly from the Tanakh, or the Jewish Bible, exactly for that purpose. If you do want to learn the Torah, or you don't have access to a Bible or anything of the sort, every Torah reading, all 53 of them, are available on my YouTube channel, the channel that you're listening to right now. So if you need to go back, go to those Torah readings and learn the Torah. It's the foundation that the God of Isaac, Jacob, and Abraham, and you'll learn about all of the things, the commands, the things to do, things not to do, the stories that God thinks is important for us to know. Story of Joseph and Jacob comes to mind. The story of the Exodus comes to mind. All these important things are detailed every day, every Torah reading. And my wife and I still do this to this day. If we read in the Torah, one of the commands given to the kings of Israel, well, one of the commands was to read the Torah every day. And the reason for that is for them to stay humble and humble and be a good servant of their constituents. So that said, the Torah is out there, ladies and gentlemen. It is God's everlasting stories, commands, words to live by, we could say. So, and if you don't have access, it's on my YouTube channel, every Torah reading. Okay. So, to start on the path of following our master and rabbi, we need to cleanse our lives from the practices of other religions. The Torah clearly states that we are not to learn the ways of the nation. Now, if you're like me, and you started with the ways of the nations, specifically, I'm an ex-Catholic, Well, then we need to cleanse our mind of these fables that may or may not be true, and so especially commands from the Catholic Church that are not in the Torah. And I'll elaborate on a few of those a little later. Uh, and start obeying the four commands from the Torah and keep learning the Torah or the first 5 books every Sabbath day. So, why do we need to do this? Well, folks, that's exactly what Yeshua and the disciples did before every other follower of Yeshua did back then. And for that, I'm going to take you to Luke 4:16. And Luke 4:16 reads like this. And they're talking, this is one of the accounts of Yeshua, and they're talking about Yeshua himself. Luke 4:16, and he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and as his custom was, he went in the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up to read. So in Luke 4:16, Luke clearly teaches us that Yeshua's custom was to go in the synagogue every Sabbath day and read the law and the prophets. So this is exactly from Luke's gospel. And a custom, or his tradition, we could say, was to go in the synagogue every Sabbath day on the Sabbath, every Sabbath day. So as believers with the spirit of Elohim, that might be a little hard to do in the present day. Many synagogues are closed to the public. Also, today's Jewish religion may be so far from the Torah that a believer of the gospel may get snared in the traditions and added commands of the rabbis that Yeshua preaches against doing. And we read that all over the accounts of Yeshua, with him arguing with the scribes and the Pharisees about their traditions. And in one exchange, Yeshua actually tells a Pharisee that they make their own followers twice a child of hell that they are. So Yeshua is not mincing words here, ladies and gentlemen. He's saying it as it is, that the church leaders of Yeshua's time were literally making followers of Satan more than they were making followers of Yah. So if Yeshua uses these words against the Pharisees and the scribes, who were basically the religious teachers of his day, well, folks, that's like 2,000 years ago. How worse is the churches today? And I will tell you, they are even worse than the scribes and the Pharisees of Yeshua's day. Most churches say that the law and the prophets are past tense or fulfilled, as I get all the time, and we don't need to do that. Well, that's not what the Torah itself says. The Torah says that we shall live by it. And that's plain and simple, folks. We shall live by the words and the law of Moses. And that is the definition of righteousness. So Yeshua knew that the synagogues were corrupted with men and their vain teachings. So Yeshua did make a way for us to honor the Sabbath day by putting himself in the center of any assembly. He did this by a declaration that he did in Matthew 18:20. Apologize. For when two or three are gathered in my name, there I am in the midst of them. So if you don't have a place of worship, or you don't want to go to church, um, Yeshua made a way for us to do our weekly um, congregation, and that's also applicable to the holy days. When in many of the feasts of Yahweh, we are told to uh, either go to the temple or to do some kind of congregation, to do some kind of assembly honoring the feast day itself. Well, if there is no synagogue close to you, or there is no place of worship close to you, or even if um, you don't really associate with any church, uh, Yeshua actually made a way for us to honor the Sabbath days and the feast days by this declaration. For when two or three are gathered in my name, there I am in the midst of them. So, whether every Sabbath day, whether you're in a building dedicated to the Messiah or not, uh, if we ask Yeshua to be in our midst, he will be there. And that's one of Yeshua's promises. We know that Messiah is faithful and true. Those are the words that are etched in him in Revelations. So when Messiah speaks, we need to listen and believe what he says. So my wife and I do not belong to a specific congregation. Um, I personally believe that the modern churches are basically all stepping stones that lead to the Torah in their own. Some churches are closer to the Torah than others. Some of them are totally irrelevant. But where you are in a church could also identify what kind of believer you are in Yeshua's teachings. Some of them are very far away from the Torah. Some of them are closer. And then finally, when we do get to receive the conviction of the Holy Spirit, then we realize that a place of worship is just a building made out of brick, wood, or stone. And God himself says that he does not live in a house per se, but he actually lives in our hearts and minds. So this is exactly what he told King David when David decided to build the temple. So we don't necessarily belong to a congregation, but we know that Messiah's words are true. Religion will tell you that you need to do this or you need to do that, but Messiah already made a way for us to honor him and the Father every Sabbath day without needing to be in a building dedicated to himself. Okay, so now let's go back to Acts. So James tells us as the first command is to abstain from the pollution of idols. And this is his first recommendation he gives to new followers. So James is actually referring to idolatry. Wow, where do I actually start? This is one of the most misunderstood commands in modern times. Different religions will give you different opinions on what idolatry really is, which ones are correct and which ones are made up. Well, let's start where we should. Let's start in the Torah at Exodus chapter 20. Now, if you're not familiar with Exodus chapter 20, that's exactly where God gives the Ten Commandments to Moses. So this is actually uh, the first and the second commands of the law of Moses. Exodus 23. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee a graven image of any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord, am thy God, and I am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Okay, so uh, the Most High Elohim states that we should not have any other gods before him. What gods are there other than the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Well, the Torah teaches us that there are no other gods. Time and time again, the Torah and the prophets assert that there is no other. Deities made up by fables of men are what they are. They are fables, ladies and gentlemen. Do you mix other deities in your worship? Or do you pray to so called saints? If you do, you've compromised yourself. Um, and even if you pray to Yeshua, do you pray to Yeshua? Well, Yeshua teaches us otherwise. So in Matthew 6:6, uh, Yeshua, this is how Yeshua teaches us how to pray. But thou, when thou prayest, enter in thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to the Father, which is in secret, and thy Father, which seeth in secret, shall reward thee openly. So, what does Yeshua actually tell us? He says, pray to the Father. Simple words, ladies and gentlemen. That's what Yeshua teaches us. Yeshua, you know, he might have been the firstborn in the universe, and he might have been the first created thing ever in our universe. But Yeshua, uh, certainly the man, is a created thing, and so as we are created things also. So Yeshua actually teaches us to pray to the Father and ask the Father whatever you need in prayer in his name of Yeshua the Messiah, or we could also say Yeshua of Nazareth. That's literally what Yeshua teaches us. Uh, and again, uh, now we need to have a little bit of faith. Those who pray to the Father in his name will see signs and wonders, as written in Mark chapter 16:5. And here's Mark 16:5. And he said unto them, go ye into all the world and preach the good news to every creature. He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved, but he that believeth not shall be damned. And these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name they shall cast out devils. They shall speak with new tongues. They shall take up serpents. And if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover. So Yeshua is teaching his disciples that when they pray to the Father in his names, he's literally saying this miracle. He's literally saying that miracles will happen to the ones who honor the Father and honor the teachings of the words of Yeshua. So, in essence, Yeshua himself teaches us that we must pray to the Father and ask in his name of Yeshua of Nazareth. Anything else is idolatry. You might say, oh, well, I prayed to Saint Nick or I prayed to Saint so-and-so. And that's not what Yeshua teaches us. If you love the Father and if you love Rabbi Yeshua, or the Master, we can call him, he teaches us to pray to the Father and to the Father alone. So don't get me wrong. Yeshua is alive and well, and he's sitting at the Father's right hand. So Yeshua himself may be able to hear you if you pray to him directly. But that's not what he teaches us. He teaches us to pray to the Father, who is the creator of all things. He doesn't teach us to pray to created things. I have thanked Yeshua for his sacrifice on the tree. Yeshua is my friend. He's my brother. He's my king. He is the cornerstone of the law and the prophets. But when I ask and I sit in the prayer, I always ask the Father in the name of the Messiah. Folks, Father considers idolatry or praying to idols or statues of, if we go back to the command in Exodus, God tells us not to make any idols of any kind that look like nothing in the heavens, that look like things on the earth, that looks like things under the water, even things under the earth. It doesn't matter. Idols are basically lifeless things that made up by men's hands that don't really have any power to themselves. And I'll get back to that later. So when we look at the idolatry command, the idolatry command has two parts. The first is to honor God and to honor God alone. The other is for men and women not to compromise themselves with two idols of wood, stone, and metal. Why are they called idols? You know, when you're sitting at a stop sign in your vehicle or in your car, and your car is idling, well, what is your car doing? It's doing nothing. It's literally wasting gas, waiting for something to happen. This is an idol, folks. An idol is something that does nothing, that wastes your time and your energy. Why are they called idols? Because those things are lifeless, deaf, dumb, and blind. Things that cannot do anything but corrupt the ones that think that those things have value. Let's go to the prophet Jeremiah. And for that, I'm going to bring you to Jeremiah 10, verses 1 to 6. And here, Jeremiah is prophesying to the house of Israel. So he's speaking to all the Israelites of his day. And when God sends a prophet to speak to the house of Israel, it's usually not a good thing, folks. It's usually because they need to right a wrong. And it goes like this. Verse 1, Jeremiah chapter 10, verses 1 to 6. Hear ye the words which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the ways of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed by them. For the customs of the people are vain. One cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them no good. For as much as there is none like unto thee, O Lord, thou art great, and thy name is great in might. So, what is was Jeremiah trying to teach Israel here? Well, he's saying that we're not to be afraid of idols because they can't do evil or good. Unlike the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that can part the waters, that can give plagues to Egypt, and empower the Messiah to heal the blind and the sick. So, idols, in whichever form or fashion, corrupt men and women. It's best to have your dwelling cleaned of them. Here's my advice. Go through your house or your place. If you have any religious items, such as crosses, crucifixes, statues, or pictures of any saints, or any god or goddesses, give those an escort out the door and into the garbage, or better yet, the fire. Ladies and gentlemen, I have 2 religious items in my whole house. Actually, you could say 3. I have my tzitzit, what God commands me to wear as a reminder of his commandments and the Torah. I have a menorah, which to me is a true sign of Israel, not the Star of David. And if you think these symbols are acceptable, well, you may want to go to another one of my teachings where I teach about crosses and the Star of David. So I have a menorah, and a real menorah with 7 branches, not 9. And the last piece, the last religious item I have is a shofar, because God literally commands us to blow the shofar on the Feast of Trumpets and some other feast days. So there really is no need for crosses, pictures of saints, crucifixes. All these things will corrupt you. And I'll just go back here. To the idolatry command. For I, the Lord, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, on the 3rd and 4th generation of them that hate me. So, God, in Exodus chapter 20, literally says that he's jealous. And if you use idols or you include them in your worship, you are literally setting yourself up for the curse, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, onto the 3rd and 4th generation of them that hate me. So God considers those who use idols some that hate him. Let these words sink in, ladies and gentlemen. These are not. These are words that are very clear and specific. So idols, pictures of saints, pictures of holy things, relics, talismans, call them whatever you want. Give them an escort out the door and the fire or the garbage. So idolatry is the human practice that God hates the most. And he compares it to adultery. In Exodus 20, verse 5, God declares to us that he is a jealous God and says that he grants a generational curse on those who hate him by worshiping lifeless things instead of himself. If you truly want to be blessed, then make sure that your dwelling place is free of those objects that are called idols. Uh, Folks, God, we see through some of the prophets that one day Jerusalem will be, the idols will be thrown down and destroyed, and they will never take up uh, life again. And unfortunately, we are not in those times, and Jerusalem is still filled with idols to this day. Um, my wife and I often listen to Relaxing Walker, which has a YouTube channel, walking through the streets of Jerusalem, some of the holy sites also. Uh, and you can see idols, crosses everywhere, symbols all over the place. So the only power you can have is over your own property. And I would recommend starting to trash everybody else's property. Some people actually value these things when the Torah and the prophets tell us otherwise. So don't destroy other people's property, but you certainly have power over your own land or your own dwelling place to get rid of those things. And God will bless you for it. So if you really want to make sure to be blessed, make sure that your dwelling place is free from those objects called idols. That's our lesson for today, folks. Next week, we will discuss the other idols, the ones that are invisible. And I'll take more on about that next week, because idols are everywhere in the modern world. Some of them are very easily seen in plain sight. Statues of angels, statues of deities, Buddhas, all these things, well, they're all idols. Some of them, however, are completely invisible. And I'm going to elaborate on that next week. So don't take it from me. Prove all things and judge for yourself. Let the Spirit lead you where it wants you to be. Yeshua, folks, Yeshua is our master, savior, and rabbi. We need no other man to lead us. And my name's Daniel, and I'm the Vegan Nazarite. I'm going to wish you a good Shabbat Shalom. And God willing, I'll be back next week with another teaching.